Congratulations, Hawkeyes, and welcome to the University of Iowa's 2021 Spring Commencement. Obviously, we're recognizing your commencement in a unique way, but even though our entire celebration is virtual, our pride in your accomplishments remains as strong and bright as at any Iowa commencement. In fact, you're a very special class of Iowa graduates, having finished your studies during a global pandemic unprecedented in our lifetime. Throughout it, you showed commitment and resilience in completing your degrees, and you set a great example for our entire campus. As always, we stand together as Hawkeyes with strength, purpose, and pride. Today, many of you are gathering either in person or virtually with your loved ones, and any commencement is also a recognition of a team effort. So today, we also thank and recognize the family members, friends, teachers, mentors, and so many others who added their support and their love to get you here to where you are today. I'd like to just take a moment and have you reflect on all the help that they've provided, because I want you later in your life to think back on this moment and think back on all those loved ones who got you here. Pay it back. In the future, remember all the support they gave you and return the favor to some other person who needs it in their lives. Soon you will be moving on to new phases of your own lives, whether that be professional or personal or community and maybe even educational. But know that you've been a very central part of our community. You've added your excellence to this entire university while studying here, and you've contributed to our campus and larger community in so many ways. And looking forward, we're grateful that your future accomplishments will always be part of our proud Iowa legacy. We know that you will represent yourself, your university, and your profession with honor and integrity, and we know that you will make people's lives so much better through your talent, your compassion, and your newly minted knowledge and skills. Even though the years ahead promise major changes for you, please know that the University of Iowa will always be here and welcoming for you to come back to our campus. As alumni, you will always be part of who we are, who we have been, and who we will become. Once again, congratulations, good luck, and best wishes for great success in the wonderful years ahead of you. We are very, very proud of you. And remember, as we like to say around here, once a Hawkeye, always a Hawkeye. Go Hawks.
Welcome, graduating students, family, and friends. I am honored to join President Harold in bringing you greetings and heartfelt congratulations from the University of Iowa on this very special occasion. There is no question this is a very different graduation day than the one you have probably imagined many times over the years. But even though we're at a distance from each other, you can be sure that today you are surrounded by the joy and the very best wishes of your peers, family, and friends, as well as the many faculty and staff who have been your teachers, coaches, and mentors, and who are all so very proud of you. It's been a real privilege to work with you and to watch what you have achieved along the way. As proud as your family and friends are at this moment, you should know that this is also one of the proudest moments in the life of your college and the University of Iowa. This is what we work so hard for, to see our students achieve their goals. Even better is knowing how very well prepared you are to transition into the next stage of your professional or academic life, wherever your path may take you. You've worked with excellent faculty and mentors, received the highest quality education, and met rigorous academic standards. You've built powerful knowledge and skills while demonstrating the talent and drive it takes to succeed as a student at Iowa. As if that weren't enough, this graduating class has faced unprecedented challenges that tested your determination and your resilience, and you came through it with flying colors. When you put all of those qualities and experiences together, knowing that you are going to be putting those strengths into the service of your professions and your communities, it's exciting to think about what a difference you will make. You will be innovators in a time of change, leaders in your field, and champions of social justice. You will continue to learn and discover and create. You'll be a positive force in the lives of others. And through it all, you will be carrying on the proud tradition of the Hawkeyes that came before you. I know you will continue to make us proud, just as you have always been proud to have graduated from this great university. The University of Iowa community joins me in wishing you the very best success.
As Dean of Iowa Law, I am delighted to be part of this 2021 graduation ceremony for the University of Iowa College of Law. Today, I extend a special welcome and hearty congratulations to our most honored guests, the family, friends, and loved ones of today's graduates. Thank you for supporting our students through the terror of the first year of law school, the hard work of the second year, and the utter impatience of the third year. The last 15 months have been especially difficult on today's graduates and on all of us. Thank you for comforting and encouraging these students when things did not go as they'd hoped. Thank you for cheering with us on their truly extraordinary achievements from their orientation in first year, through a disrupted second year, and then a tough third year, and finally, today's graduation. Without your unwavering support, we would not be celebrating today. Graduates, we cannot thank them enough, so wherever you are, please join us in thanking your family and friends. Distinguished members of the class of 2021, what a privilege it is to address you today. The past year has demanded more grit and resilience than any class before you. Not only did you stay on course and complete your legal studies, but you confronted a rapidly changing and unpredictable world. More than a pandemic, you have endured racial injustice, a derecho that devastated eastern Iowa, social unrest, a contested election, and more than a little political controversy. Most of us will look back on this year as a very difficult time, and even in some ways a lost year. But you did not let it knock you off track. You are here today because you sacrificed much, and despite difficult challenges, you persevered. You are the 156th graduating class of Iowa Law, and we are already in awe of what you have accomplished. When you first arrived at the Boyd Law Building, you were asked to embrace Iowa Law's culture of collaboration and civility. You did not disappoint, and it did not happen the way anyone expected. You helped us uphold important traditions in a brand new way. You helped us keep our community safe, and together, we grieved the loss of a world we depended on being a certain way. During your time here, you have helped the law school community remain collegial, a beacon of civility, and an oasis of calm in a loud and complicated world. Your leadership during this tumultuous time is a triumph. As you graduate, please know that wherever you are today, we celebrate you. You are part of a very rich tradition. You earned your membership in this community. You are extraordinary, each of you in different ways. Along with the faculty, I feel privileged to have spent a short amount of time with you at the beginning of the long arc of your career, and to add an even more personal note, you and I joined this institution about the same time, and you have been very generous colleagues. I will miss you. Thank you for making your mark on the College of Law community and leaving it better than you found it. And congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a roller coaster. It's almost like 3 years ago, we as a class decided to take a trip down to Disney World and thought it'd be fun to strap into the rock and roller coaster ride. And we thought we had some idea of what to expect, right? It's a roller coaster. Then, a few minutes after the ride got underway, it's almost like someone decided it's too bland, it's too slow, let's spice it up. And then proceeded to add 50 extra miles worth of track after the ride had already started. Like we signed up for one experience and the actual experience ended up being totally different. But finally, here we are, pulling into the track after the extra bumps and bruises and upside down twists we didn't know were coming. And it feels really good. My name is Adam Ramadan Lorenzana, and I have the honor of giving the graduating student address. I'd like to begin by thanking family and friends for joining us this afternoon. And that thanks, it's not just about today. Law school's already hard. Being great on a curve, applying for jobs, managing type A personalities that go to law school in the first place, it's a lot. Sprinkle into that already volatile mix a global pandemic, quarantining, and in some cases losing loved ones, and the already valuable support we receive from family and friends in normal times becomes worth its weight in gold in these remarkable times. So if I may, on behalf of my classmates, Thank you all for being there for us. I know I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my support system, with a particular shout out to my mom. And it wouldn't be right celebrating this occasion without recognizing the family and friends that helped us get here in the first place. And yet still, here we are. 987 days, 84 credits, and unfortunately, only one barrister ball. But it's graduation. And given how unexpected our law school experience has been, I'm not really sure how to go about this address. I could talk about how we went through adversity, but each and every one of us already knows that. We've just lived through it. I could talk about memorable moments from inside of Boyd, but we were robbed of almost 50% of that time together. I will say that as long as we never need to worry about mistaking the character count on Exemplify for the word count again, we'll be fine on that front. No, I think it makes sense for me to skedaddle over to talking about living in the moment and about appreciating the beauty of every moment and of every experience. Whereas many members of our class came to law school straight from undergrad, I had 4 years in between. I had a job, I got a master's, and I spent way too much money on tickets to John Mayer and the Mets. And as much as I enjoyed being part of the real world, I often found myself thinking back to the sense of community that I was so lucky to experience as an undergraduate. A sense of community that many members of our class were barely removed from when we started law school because they went straight through. But taking my time off, I think it made me look back on my experiences from undergrad in a way I don't think I would have otherwise. Crossing people on the way to class and saying hello, walking into the library at any given time and seeing people you knew, leaving dinner with one group of friends to go to my on-campus job with another group of friends. These were all regular experiences, but experiences that after some time removed from, had almost taken this elevated sort of mystical place in my mind as memories. When I got to Iowa Law, I realized just how lucky I was to have another chance at that sense of community, at creating those memories, and how important it was that this time around I did a better job of appreciating those moments as they came. Our Iowa law school experience may not have been what any of us expected 987 days ago, but that doesn't mean it didn't include moments that, even if we didn't really recognize them at the time, we won't cherish moving forward. Complaining about wedge pizza being served for the umpteenth time in Levitt was like a rite of passage. And speaking of rites of passage, seriously, how are we the ones that finally suggested push-pull signs on the library doors? Did no one else have that problem? Or how about asking every single friend to volunteer as your trial advocacy witness, or actually volunteering to be a trial advocacy witness once and then getting roped in a bunch of times afterwards? These moments, they were all so regular, so normal, so routine, that they came and went, and we likely wouldn't have bothered to think about them again. But it's precisely these moments that we're going to look back on and appreciate and value. And that's even before mentioning the big ones, the big moments. A few weeks ago, one classmate threw a baby shower for another. A few months ago, a classmate got married, and something like 10 of us drove to Omaha to be there for the wedding. From the highest of highs, like celebrating job offers and weddings, to the lowest of lows, like mourning the loss of loved ones, the common thread was that we were together, pushing through the tough times and holding on to the good ones, again, together. For those of us that took time off before law school, we probably arrived at Iowa Law knowing to be on the lookout for these moments. For those of us that went straight through, we probably hoped law school would provide moments even remotely close to those we experienced in undergrad. But regardless of our level of awareness or appreciation for these moments as they happened, the critical part is that we live these moments, we have these moments, and we get to hold these moments close as we go our separate ways. As unique as our Iowa law school experience has been, I'm grateful that we were able to live this experience together and that I was able to live these moments with all of you. Every time an Iowa football score flashes across the screen, every time Iowa is mentioned in the news, and every time I'm offered ranch at a restaurant, I'll be reminded of my time at Iowa with all of you. To have so many memories to choose from each time that happens, I count myself incredibly lucky. Congratulations to the class of 2021, and cheers to success, to happiness, and to a lifetime of turning otherwise regular moments into indelible memories. Thank you.
It is now my honor to introduce our alumni speaker, the Honorable Kevin Ross. Judge Ross has broader experience than most law school graduates in interpreting, applying, practicing, or enforcing the law since 1987. That's in part because before law school, he was a police officer right here in Iowa City. After graduating from the College of Law and winning several awards here, he became a law clerk to Chief Judge Paul Magnuson of the U.S. District Court for the District of Minnesota, and then for the legendary Donald P. Lay of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. Following these prestigious clerkships, he joined the law firm Green Espel in Minneapolis. Since 2006, he has been a judge on the Minnesota Court of Appeals. During his 15-year career on the court, he has authored more than 900 judicial opinions and has been honored as an exemplary judge. Like any good graduate of the Writing University, Judge Ross cares deeply about the writing portion of his craft. He is known for his own well-crafted opinions and his commitment for helping others to learn to be better writers. Of course, what I like best about Judge Ross is that as an alum, he answers the phone whenever his alma mater calls him. Whether it's judging moot court, speaking to our students on panels about clerking and careers, hiring students as clerks, or addressing today's graduates, Judge Ross never forgets that he is a Hawkeye, and he generously gives back to our students and to our school. Let me now turn the screen over to Judge Ross to share some wisdom with our graduates. Take it away, Judge, and thank you for being part of this commencement.
Well, congratulations and northern greetings from Minnesota to you Iowa College of Law graduates. I am truly humbled at this honor to offer remarks at your commencement. I think, I'm not sure why I'm here. I think classes tend to pick judges to speak at these events, hoping to learn something about what might inspire one to become a judge. And I don't have much to offer in that vein, except to say that my inspiration didn't come while I was in law school or afterwards. It was actually before. When I was an undergraduate, little known secret about me, I was a walk-on at the University of Iowa hoping to play football. I didn't last, but I was there for a few months. And during the course of that, under Hayden Fry and a few other very notable coaches, I was informed by the coaches repeatedly. Not only was I not cut out for football, but I was encouraged that I should be a judge, that I should devote myself to becoming a judge. And that was a strange thing for an undergraduate on a college football field. And they said it over and over again, not exactly in those words. I think their exact words were, Ross, you belong on the bench. You really belong on the bench. Well, although it's been a very long time, I haven't forgotten what you're going through today, graduates. I sat there almost 3 decades ago, right where you are. Well, not exactly right where you are, in your kitchen and basement and living room and office and it looks like bathroom, wherever this awkward and virtual world has put you. But I think I do know some of the things going through your mind right now, the mix of eagerness and apprehension, of accomplishment and relief, of uncertainty and hope. Although you have to forgo, unfortunately, the ceremonial pomp and circumstance because of the current affairs, and so you lose out on the graduation ceremony as it usually exists. The point is the same. You have finally earned the right to hold that prize, that critical document that evidences the end of one amazingly, uniquely challenging adventure and the beginning of another. And I'm here to tell you that this new adventure will be more amazing, more challenging than the one you're finishing today. And I intend here to say something about that part, about the challenging part. I have one reflection after practicing law for 12 years and now spending the last 14 years on the bench. And I intend to share that with you today in the form of an analogy, one that you'll be familiar with. And let's call this an unconventional mini session of constitutional law of sorts, something we can call bottom-up government. And I'll warn you at the outset, you will be graded. You will be graded. Here's my thesis in this. Maintaining the constitution of a government as it was intended cannot and therefore does not occur unless its caretakers are deliberate, dedicated, and diligent to the effort. Let me say it again. Maintaining the constitution of a government as it was intended cannot and does not occur without its caretakers being deliberate, dedicated, and diligent in the effort to maintain it. All right, let's try the analogy to make the point. And the point I hope you'll take with you, and it'll be an analogy you should be familiar with. And it's analogizing from the United States and its government. When you studied the United States Constitution, you learned, and I presume you learned what the framers of the government had in mind for the most part. There's some variation, but for the most part, you learned that they envisioned a very limited and restrained federal government. You learn that the framers conceived of a government so limited in nature, in fact, that there wouldn't even be a need for a Bill of Rights. It's pretty extraordinary, but you remember what Hamilton said about it? Go ahead and pull out your Federalist Papers, which I know you have handy, which everybody brings to occasions like this. But let's recall what Hamilton said about a Bill of Rights. He said that bills of rights are not only unnecessary in the proposed Constitution, but would even be dangerous. He added a rhetorical question. He asked, "For why declare that things shall not be, which there is no power to do?" Why declare that things shall not be, for which there is no power to do? That is, the framers generally saw no need to assert that Congress, for example, could not establish a religion or intrude on anyone's right to freely assemble, because the Constitution nowhere suggests that Congress actually had the power to do those things. The government, as the framers thought they were creating it, had overall very limited, only expressly defined authority, restrained entirely by the specific categories of enumerated power assigned to each of the three branches, presumably to be restricted only to the terms. All other power remained with the people or with the sovereign states. In that context, imagine what the framers would think if they woke up this morning, if they looked around today at the government. I'm submitting to you, what should be obvious, and I'm sure you've heard argued all throughout your law school tenure, that they would see government quite foreign to their expectations in some way, big or small, depending on your perspective. But it would be very different from the limited government that they planned. Now, please note, I'm not offering a criticism. I'm not saying that this change is either good or bad, just that it occurred. From what was contemplated and planned, things went very differently. Many contend that this is so as to all three branches. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, from the presidency. War and executive orders. Those are the examples from the presidency that I'll point to. That James Madison said that commencing war would be an exclusively legislative function, leaving the president the power only to command a war that was already authorized by Congress. But anyone who thinks that presidents today can't start wars hasn't been paying attention for decades. The last congressionally declared war was actually during World War II. And presidents and Congress have been wrestling over the constitutionality of the War Powers Resolution ever since its inception. Now, as to executive powers, well, President George Washington again, context is the framers' world, in contrast to ours. President George Washington issued an average of only one executive order for each year of his presidency, one per year. And those who came immediately after him also issued very few. And if you look at those early executive orders, you can see that they really had the flavor of ministerial, procedural things pertaining clearly to the executive office rather than looking at as if they were substantive things. By contrast, in recent history, many have argued, reasonably, that the nature of the executive orders has changed to be very substantive, or at least to feel that way, like edicts from a king, perhaps, affecting the operation of law. And the numbers are noteworthy, rather extraordinary, in fact. Presidents from George H.W. Bush through Barack Obama, if we look at the recent history, averaged in the neighborhood of 40 executive orders every single year. 40, by comparison to George Washington's one. President Trump exceeded them, issuing 55 orders per year. And if you think that's a lot, in the last few months, in the very early months of his presidency, Joe Biden has already issued 60. 60 executive orders in 4 months. That's more executive orders than the first 10 presidents combined in their entire terms in office. And again, more significant than the number, the nature of modern executive orders, many have argued, are tending to feel like what the framers might have called laws, the kind of laws that require legislative action. Speaking of legislation, the framers intended the two houses of Congress corporately to constitute the only body authorized to make federal law. But today, congressional and presidential delegation of power, blessed by the courts, has resulted in unelected governmental employees rather than elected officials, making what I think the framers would call laws. Now, these are federal departments and agencies and commissions. They make rules and regulations, but again, if you look at them in substance, I'm quite sure the framers would have referred to them as laws. And they do so much more frequently than the legislature actually passes bills. Last year, for example, the president signed into law only 178 congressionally passed bills, while regulators at the same time issued way more than 3,000 regulations. The Code of Federal Regulations now consists of 240 volumes, comprising 190,000 pages. And where Congress has, in fact, itself enacted laws, you've seen in your studies over the last 3 years that many scholars are convinced that Congress has simply not restrained itself against legislating on subject matters that the framers would have thought and intended to be left exclusively to the states. Some have argued with considerable force, for example, that the Commerce Clause has become sort of a blank check on federal power, a blank check of federal power than a check of federal power, far exceeding the limits the framers had envisioned. And you can't leave off the judiciary. After all, that's my role, right? As Hamilton explained it, the framers saw the judiciary as a thoughtful but relatively powerless branch with essentially no authority except to decide controversies by applying the law enacted by the policy-making branches. But I don't need to tell you, after your 3 years of reading federal cases, that academics from both sides of the political aisle have made very strong, if not compelling, arguments that from time to time the judiciary has seemed to exercise rather extraordinary policy-making power. This is, again, something that I think the framers never envisioned. Now remember, I'm not offering an opinion about whether the change from restrained government, the government that I think the framers seem to have intended, to the seemingly less restrained government today is a bad thing or a good thing. That's not my point. I'm just reminding you that many scholars seem to agree, more or less, that what we have today is in significant ways different from what the framers seem to have intended, despite their passion about the form of government they were creating. Okay, so what in the world does this have to do with you on your graduation? Remember this single point that I wanted to make with you. Again, maintaining the constitution of a government as it was intended cannot and does not occur unless its caretakers are deliberate, dedicated, and diligent in the effort. Again, what does that have to do with you? everything. Because I'm not talking about the United States government, except by analogy. I'm talking about the most basic, personal unit of government. I'm talking about self-government. I'm talking about the individual. And that means I'm talking about you. You are, for all intents and purposes, your own government, in a most literal sense. You have a legislative branch in the sense that you develop and decide on the rules that you will follow in your life. You have an executive office putting in motion your plans and your objectives. And you also have a judiciary, your conscience, telling you when you have lived up to the standards you've set for yourself and telling you when you have failed to do so as well. You are indeed your own government. Now, follow along with me on the analogy here. The framers leading up to the constitutional ratification effort were devoted to studying, thinking about, and arguing for a very particular nature of federal government. You know how deeply they thought about these things, how strongly they drew lines marking when and where and how government ought to operate. And yet, despite all of their thinking at the outset, all of their hopes, again, at the outset, all of their planning at the outset, and all of their labor at the outset, over time, those in positions to carry out the original vision were not always as committed to the same values, to the same parameters, to the same limits, at least not to the same extent as the framers. And the limits, therefore, blurred, if not changed. So the thing itself has changed. It looks and seems to operate differently. Or so it's been argued by many scholars, and I don't have any reason to disagree. Now, there's no need to dwell on the many and varied positive and negative pressures on the judges and the presidents and the legislators who did things differently from what seems to have been contemplated or intended by the framers. Whatever the pressures on government to relax the limits intended by the framers, the point is the same here. The pressure occasionally has worked an erosion here and there. Starts off small, then gets larger. And so the thing, little by little, that remains is not entirely the thing that was apparently intended. Again, to the analogy here, self-government. We've talked about pressures of the U.S. government. There is no profession with more intense, more relentless pressure than the one you are entering. I've seen it over the decades. These pressures can and do change men and women who don't diligently resist against those pressures. Whether you find yourself in the contentious practice of law that is litigating cases, or the more predictive and cooperative practice of law like negotiating contracts and planning estates or creating governmental policies and so forth, the practice of law has a way of reshaping a person and her convictions. It pressures against standards. It will pressure against your standards. I guarantee it. It will tempt you to live by an ends justifies the means approach to your professional affairs. It burdens you more or less under the weight of other people's conflicts and difficulties, often heavily loaded with emotion. It pits you against adversaries who are just as prepared and educated and ambitious as you are, often in what can feel like a series of winner-take-all contests. And these opponents you'll have are not always kind or charitable or even civil. And it doesn't stop there. You will find pressures in competing for the most notable cases in the office, or for the higher salaries, or for partnership, and so on. These pressures not only exist, they persist in relentless torrent fashion. The pressures that follow virtually any career to which your Juris Doctorate degree will likely take you, from the courtroom to the legislative floor to the boardroom, are like so much constant water. They can change your landscape. They can erode your principles, at first in small ways. A little creek here pushes into a river there, and then to the point where you don't even resemble what you hoped to be. They can tempt you to overlook that the lawyer and the party, for example, on the other side of the deposition table are living and breathing people for whom being civil, even kind, is worth the effort. even while zealously representing your client's interests. They will tempt you, these pressures, to cut ethical corners in the heat of having to complete a whole lot more work than you have time to get done. These pressures will tempt you to write your brief so as to shade or even hide the truth to further your client's position just for the sake of winning, or to distort the meaning of a contract term or a statute beyond what you know is reasonable. The pressures will pressure you and tempt you to misstate case holdings so as to mislead the court to favor your argument. Erosion starts small and just grows deeper. At first, the lawyer merely reluctantly overlooks his client's dishonesty, and eventually, as the conscience wears thinner and weaker, the lawyer helps to fabricate the stories. Again, the point: maintaining the constitution of a government as it was intended does not occur unless its caretaker is deliberate, dedicated, and diligent to the effort. And I'm here to say, and to encourage you, you can be just that: deliberate, dedicated, and diligent in the effort to maintain your core self. And I'm here to urge you in it. I'm confident, my fellow law graduates from the University of Iowa, that the ordinary course of this profession will not reshape you. You don't have to become the one who mistakes incivility as a tactic, who trades her own integrity for an immediate outcome, or who uses the profession primarily as a means of personal advancement, who forgets the idealism of a greater good. You can avoid becoming the one whose character is gradually changed, eroded over time. Now let me offer you a strategy as to how this might happen. To defend yourself against this erosion of principle. It's simple in concept, but it is a bit difficult in practice, but it can be done. I've seen it done and I've seen it failed. First, I suggest thinking deeply about who you are and ask the hard questions and answer them truthfully. What are my true values? What matters to me in life? What are my virtues? Where are my blind spots? Then the next step is to think deeply and ask the even harder question about who you want to be. Questions like, what should be my values? What virtues do I lack? And next, I would urge you to do the unusual thing and write it down. I mean, you're going to do a lot of writing anyway. You're essentially a professional writer. You'll be writing briefs and memos and summaries and so forth. So why not take some time with this introspective effort? So far, the framers did exactly these things. They asked corporately, what's our current government? What are the shortcomings of it? What would we prefer instead? And they wrote it down into a constitution. As to self-government, being deliberate means to do the same thing, even writing it down. I mean, some people write down their own personal mission statements, and I would urge you to consider it. And if you're willing to go all in, you might do what I've personally done. This is going to sound really geeky and weird, but I've actually written my own personal constitution. Yeah, it's 3 pages long. It's only for me. It's not for anybody else. It says who and what I am and who and what I want to be. I wrote it down years ago, and I turn to it occasionally to measure myself against it. In other words, I ask myself in this document, and I write down in this document how I am constituted. It includes the character that I aspire to, the primary thing that matters to me. It includes a mission of sorts, but it's really more about the person I want to be than the things I hope to accomplish. Now, there's one final step, and it's the essential one, the hardest one. After taking stock of who you are, identifying who you want to be, and perhaps even committing it to writing, you do the last step, the challenging one, the most difficult one, the one that many people skip, which is to hold yourself accountable. It's taking a break from the pressure as often as you need to and seriously reflecting on whether your conduct is really keeping pace with the character you've defined for yourself. Now, I did say you'd be graded on today's topic, and you will, but not by me, not by anybody else, but by you when you look in the mirror down the line. If you hold yourself accountable strictly and without compromising the virtues that ought to define you, when you look in the mirror, you will not have changed in the places that it matters. not in 3 years, not in 3 decades. You won't see yourself primarily as a lawyer. You'll see the same inspired, character-driven, genuinely virtuous person who also just happens to be a lawyer with principled ideals that others will also see and admire in you. And you'll teach others to do the same. Well, that's all I really wanted to say today. After seeing so many lawyers struggle in this area, gradually eroded into a sort of sad caricature, I just wanted to urge you to be and to remain constituted rightly, to be deliberate and dedicated and diligent in the effort to maintain your constitution, your core self. And I believe you really will. So graduates, we anticipate, and I say we, I mean the faculty, the staff, all of us, your fans, your family, those who cheer for you. We all anticipate your adventure with great confidence in your success. But please remember these remarks. First, primarily, be the person you should be and hold on to it. Then, and only then, be the lawyer you want to be. So congratulations, class of 2021. You did it, and I applaud you. Cheers.
Thank you. And now for the reason we are all here. Provost Kragel, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Law, I am proud to present these candidates who have completed all the requirements for the degrees of Juris Doctor, Masters of Law, Master of Studies in Law, and Doctor of Juridical Science as designated. Members of the class of 2021, please rise and remain standing.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, I hereby confer on each of you the degree of Juris Doctor, Masters of Law, Master of Studies in Law, and Doctor of Juridical Science as qualified and designated. You may be seated. Congratulations.
Kathryn Marie Alfus, Evan Anderson, Colleen Rose Anderson Hartley, Theodore Apple, Cassie B. Arntzen, Alexander W. Bakke, Samuel K. Beyer, Seth Leo Balke, Caitlin Bear, Mikayla N. Bennett, Jacob B. Bennington, Nicholas Ray Benson, Blake D. Berner, Jessica Bowes, Kayla N. Boyd, Alexandra Jean Roberta Brennan, Brianna Lynn Busick, Ryan P. Chance, Hunter M. Chapman, Ethan I. Chen, CJ Chen, Joseph Thomas Clark, Chris Colburn, Zachary Thomas Crane, Kimberly Joanne Cullen, Krystal Kay Daggett, Mary L. DeCamp, Nicholas Peter Damaris, Alexandra Nicolette Donor, Drew Alexander Dreesen, Sydney R. Eibschutz, John T. Engelman, Jackson C. Esker, Paul J. Esker, Anthony J. Fitzpatrick, Rachael E. Fix, Mackensie K. Graham, Samuel J. Gray, Pablo R. Guevara, William P. Haynes, Kevin C. Healy, Stephen J. Hilfer, Paige Elizabeth Hillier, Sandy Shinyi Shi, Kevin J. Illig, Stephen James, Jonathan M. Jansen, Eong Shong, Philip M. Johnson, Aurora Arap, Camille Elizabeth Khan, Byung Jin Gong, Patrick K. Kenny, Brian Joseph Keogh, Erin M. Kinley, Lindsay M. Kriz, Apurva A. Kunte, Peter Robert Lapointe, Shichao Lee, Allison Ann Linafelter, Justin J. Lortz, Reed Allen Lofsgaard, Brooke Lee Loftus, Adam R. Lorenzana, Tatiana Claire Lowell Campbell, Anna Ruth Lynch, Austin Carl Moss, Jessica N. Maharaj, Brett Allen Merrick, Imani Y. Marshall Loving, Eric P. Martin, Alec Marshall McMullen, Colin T. McNamara, Paul L. Menke, Marissa Elizabeth Meyer, Austin Den Mickle, Dakota K. Moore, Chandler L. Morse, Joel M. Mudd, Michelle M. Murdoch, Madison Jean Murhammer Cologne, Peter A. Murray, Stacey Jo Murray, Florence L. Neal, Dylan Nguyen, Brooke Elizabeth Nowak, Ramon Ortiz, Zachary Parle, Bradley Lewis Pelton, Lucas Perlman, Lauren Michelle Pittman, Heriberto Ponce, Michael Louis Principe Jr., David Lee Rappenecker, Peter Wallace Braun, Raymond I. Rector, Laney N. Reed, Alex Carol Rice, Thomas James Richter, Tiffany Theomara Rivera, Jordan L. Romero Villanueva, Spencer Thomas Raudebush, Luke M. Roy, Neil S. Shadle, Olivia M. Schuler, Girindra B. Selleck, Riley Sexton, Kevin T. Sharp, Elizabeth Nicole Shaw, Haley Sherman, Rachel Schwen, Brano Silvestrini Rodriguez, Tiana M. Slaney, Vidhath Sripati, John Stager, Jared M. Stint, Daniel M. Strawn, Astrid C. Teo Rodriguez, Emily S. Tassoni, Ryan Paul Tunink, Jacklyn R. Vasquez, Victoria A. Velasquez, Jacob Vetter, Rixin Wang, Dana A. Waterman, Kathryn Patricia Wenman, Bryony Whitaker, Brock T. White, Joshua H. White, Madison Ruth Gauze Wheezy, Dakota Rose Wright, Kong Ling Yu, Kang Jae Chung, Kwang Hyuk Hugh, Hannah Alyssa Hodges.
On behalf of the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, let me give my heartfelt congratulations to everyone graduating today. Today is a day for celebration, and we celebrate this moment of achievement that each of you has reached today. The past year has been one like none that any of us have experienced. The pandemic has changed so many things about the way we live our lives. This goes for pursuing higher education as well. It has made things far more challenging for you as you completed your studies, but you have persevered through unprecedented circumstances to achieve your goal of receiving your degree. Commencement is when we fulfill the most crucial mission of higher education, graduating talented people like you who will go on to make a positive impact on our society. Though today's commencement ceremony is not a traditional format, and not what you were expecting when your college career started, this in no way takes away from the tremendous accomplishment of graduating. The common theme of all commencement ceremonies is that we celebrate the value of education and your achievement. As you embark on an exciting new chapter of your life and the many successes that lie ahead of you, take a moment to reflect that you are all now graduates of the University of Iowa, one of the great public universities in our country. You should be proud of the people that help support you and help get you to this significant moment. As a mom and someone who supported her children and others during their college journey, I can say that they are extremely proud of you. Receiving a degree is one of life's truly great moments. Once again, congratulations to you all. The Board of Regents, State of Iowa, is very pleased and proud to call you alumni of the University of Iowa.
Please join me in congratulating the class of 2021. As we close, I am charged to add a few words of farewell to the newest alumni of the Iowa College of Law. Our country's 35th president, JFK, observed, "Other societies may respect the rule of force. We respect the rule of law." Our adherence to the rule of law has made this country strong, and it has assured steady progress in social justice, in civil rights, in the economy, and in myriad other important ways. If you wonder who is responsible for ensuring that our country follows the rule of law and preserves these crucial values, you may look in the mirror. More than anyone else, it is you. It was mostly lawyers who founded the United States and drafted the Constitution, which was imperfect but has been subject to steady improvement by lawyers. There is a reason that this country has elected more than half of its presidents from the ranks of lawyers. There is a reason that 50 of the current sitting United States senators are law school graduates, and 144 members of the U.S. House of Representatives are also from our ranks. It is a lawyer from Iowa, not a farmer, interestingly, who heads the U.S. Department of Agriculture. At the White House, it was a lawyer who led this country out of the Civil War. It was a lawyer who led this country out of the Great Depression. It was a lawyer who led this country out of the global financial crisis. And it is a lawyer who is leading this country out of the great pandemic. Lawyers lead. And wherever you find yourself in the coming years, people will look to you for your guidance and leadership. I remind you that the faculty has prepared you well for this noble calling, and you were prepared in a public law school. That means that ordinary Iowans, from the farmers in their fields to the checkers at the local Hy-Vee, contributed to the cost of your legal education. After all of this celebrating is over, I ask you to think seriously about how you will give back to those hardworking people who invested in you. The need is great, and your options are many. I know you will choose well. As we close this program, on behalf of the faculty and the staff, let me offer you our affection, our admiration, and our deepest congratulations. Good luck, and please know that you will never be a stranger in the Boyd Law Building. Please come back and see us now and then. Thank you.